Hello everybody, I'm Alfred, and the video we're about to watch is the movie trailer for Gentleman Jack, season 2. Apparently this is a series, not a movie. So let's check it out.
Not everyone's a force of nature like she
Is this a woman? You see, this is feminism. This is stupid. This is very, very, very stupid. Super stupid. Women did not do this in the Victorian era. This is so crazy. Let us understand something about this foolishness that we see today of women thinking that being a strong woman is being a man. Why would a woman dress like a man? Let us understand what people fought for in the Victorian age. First of all, when it comes to feminism, it was all about the right to vote. That's what just it. Then, of course, over time, it turned into different things. But this was never one of these things. And you have to understand that before it was about women having the right to vote, men did not have the right to vote. People want to act all stupid and talk about patriarchy. What is wrong with you? It is amazing that the more people go to school, the more stupid they become. What are you talking about? Men did not have the right to vote. It was not democracy. It was monarchy. It was a matter of what the king said or what the queen said. That was how it was. There was the king, queen, members of court, and then everybody else was peasants. There was no such thing as voting. Men did not have the right to vote. You see, however, when democracy came to be, in most parts of the world, men were first given rights to vote before women. The women were ignored. And a lot of that has to do with several reasons. They wanted voters to be informed and educated. If you look at the reality at that time, women were not allowed a lot of times to go to university. A lot of peasants, when the voting thing started, it was the high class. It was a class-based society. It was the highest class of people, and those who had some degree of education or full education as of that time, that were voting. So that was part of the reason why children and women were not allowed to vote, because women and children, that was just coming from an era where men were always fighting wars or defending their land or being farmers and all of that. There was no such thing as white-collar job or blue-collar jobs. It was fixed. You had to be a farmer or a hunter or or both. There was, of course, craftsmen like carpenters and sometimes musicians and all these things that always existed. But the main things were you are either a soldier, you are in one way or the other in the military or officially in the military, or you're a farmer, or you are a hunter. And of course, farming, I'm also including herding cattle or animal husbandry. Taking care of animals, killing and then eating and all of that. So that includes basically, I'm extending that even onto butchers and all of that. But in those days, people did their own butchering themselves. They killed the animal themselves and they prepared it themselves. It was not like there was an official butcher or this is the butcher in this street and he just made a living from being a butcher. Just like when it comes to clothes, a lot of people, the women made the clothes. The woman in the house, she made the clothes for the family, for herself, for her children, and all of that. So women had their own roles, but because of those kinds of things, it created a world that created a scenario where women were not. It was not logical to allow women to vote. But when things changed and women were as educated as men, it became completely illogical for women not to be allowed to vote. And of course, when women became part of society in the sense of they were able to move between any class, outside of the realms of marriage, because women obviously could do that through marriage, but they could now via their own work, via their own creations. So they did that, it became super illogical. But you have to understand that the period where men were allowed to vote and women were not allowed to vote is very small. Understand that is a reality. It's a very short and small period that ever happened. Because before all that, it was monarchy. Men were not allowed to vote. The idea was crazy. The idea was treason. As a matter of fact, it wouldn't even come into your mind. because it had no power. It is what the king says, that is what the king says, or what the queen said. So in that sense, you can see the queen, who is female, having so much power, especially when if the king dies, the queen acts in his stead. And let's not forget that it's the queen that raises the future king. That is a fact. And a lot of the ideologies that women had in those days were taught to them by the women, who were their parents. It is not men. So that's war that was created. That is why when you look at all the rules of etiquette, for example, if a woman is inside the house, a man should not wear a hat. A man has to take it off out of respect just because of the woman. In spite of the fact that the man may be older than the woman, just because he has entered the house that the woman is in, he has to take off his hat. That is a rule of etiquette that was strictly followed. When you look at all the rules of etiquette, it is built towards basically treating every woman as a queen, as higher than the man. And that was what was the basis of if a man was a gentleman. So all of this nonsense feminism and all these ideas and this kind of nonsense I'm seeing is foolishness. Like trying to portray the idea of a strong woman. You are now making a woman in the Victorian era dress like a man. This was unacceptable. No woman themselves, the women in those day and age, they will shun her, and basically ostracize her. And no woman in that day and age would want to dress like this, because this is not going to interest any man. It is actually going to bring up a lot of questions.
Everyone's a force of nature.
And she's also carrying a cane, and she's not, oh my goodness, also walking like a man.
Like she is.
If you look at it from the back, it looks like if it's a man that is walking. This is so terrible.
You can never accuse her of not knowing how to show someone a good time.
Oh my god. And you made her a gunslinger. Is this London? And from the idea, let me guess it. So I have not seen this series before. So Gentleman Jack is actually a woman. This is how feminism destroys everything. And when you keep on doing things like this, now it creates a situation where people are now predisposed to be biased towards women. Now when they see a movie that is starring a woman, they are already on edge, like, oh my god, is this going to be one feminist nonsense? You're creating a situation where people already despise what you claim you are trying to protect or trying to portray. This is so crazy.
Oh, it's well then.
So now you're now telling me that this woman is now the toughest individual, tougher than all the men, and oh boy. Oh, London.
Miss Lister, everyone's talking about you.
This is the future, our future.
So they're going to live together?
Miss Lister's really clever. She likes anything to do with medicine or mathematics and all the things women aren't supposed to be interested in.
She dissected a baby once. It was dead.
This is nonsense based on a true story of a true original. Okay, that is very interesting.
Are the only people
Based on a
in
true
the
story of
whole
a true original. Oh boy.
world who want us to be together.
Miss Lister has...
Oh my god, are they now lesbians? Yeah. Wow, lesbians in the Victorian era who are open about being lesbians. You do know that this is a recipe for being hung or stoned. That's nobody, oh my goodness. At this point, watching television is dangerous. And you see, this is why I keep on emphasizing the importance of Christians, owning media, owning, having money and, buying up the networks, being in positions of influence and power. When I say things like this, people think I'm joking. Why are you talking like this? Blah, blah, blah. No, it's because of nonsense like this. These people are pushing propaganda like this that is so stupid. How in the world are you going to make so this is a woman that has basically, Victorian era. She dresses like a man. She's now like what, a gunslinger and tougher than everybody. And at the same time, she's instructed in academics and she's a very smart mathematician and into science and all that. Then to top it off, now she's now a lesbian and is now an out and proud lesbian in the Victorian era. Are you kidding? You do know that in the Victorian era, it was very legal to stone people to death. It was very legal to hang people publicly for doing things that were seen as disagreeable. How will you do so? How does this make sense? And this is not a comedy, and they are telling you that this is based on a true life story. It is not based on any true life story. This is foolishness. It is not possible.
It's an unnatural hold over her.
With Anne Lister's wit and Miss Walker's money, she could run the whole of Halifax.
Who would ever suspect a woman of being a fortune hunter?
You should be more careful, gentleman Jack.
If I were a man, thank heaven and providence that I'm not, would you even think to question my ambition?
They're all a bit scared of you, aren't they?
You know, I find this repulsive and disgusting. I wouldn't go any further with this nonsense of a trailer. But in any case, you know, this is why I keep saying what I say. But this is what is done, and this is what influences people. And there are a lot of women who have this foolish ideology that men have been oppressing women ever since the beginning of time. And only now are they coming out of that oppression. And the way that a woman can be strong is to be a man. For her, the more manly she is, the better, you know, it is. And then the more a man is a man, it is toxic masculinity. If a man is just being himself, you know, it is toxic masculinity. You know, a man now has to be feminine. A man now has to be gay. A man now has to be more emotional. And there are even preachers that are preaching in that line of, you know, getting in touch with your feminine side. A man does not have a feminine side. If you are saying things like compassion is getting in touch with his feminine side, that is an insult to masculinity. I say that men are not inherently compassionate, that it is only women that are compassionate. So if you see a man that is compassionate, then he's getting in touch with his feminine side. That is now an insult. That is a straight up insult to men. Men do not have feminine sides. A man is not supposed to have feminine sides. Understand that the scripture makes it clear that heaven is not for the effeminate. The same scripture that condemns homosexuality, it also condemns being effeminate. Effeminate means a man that is girly, a man that is not masculine. It means a man that is basically, you know, he falls into basically what today people are talking about. When they say man masculine, they say it's toxic masculinity and all kinds of nonsense. What they are driving you towards, which is being effeminate and all that, getting in touch with your so-called feminine side, which is not feminine at all, you know, being gay and all of that nonsense, you know, gay-ish, you know, in your actions and in your mannerisms. All of that is what is written expressly as what we one of the things that disqualifies you from the kingdom of God. You know, so the devil knows what he's doing. You know, that being said, if you are watching this and you would like to be a part of, you know, making movies, you know, taking over the entertainment landscape, reach out to us on Alfred.vip. Perhaps you're watching this, you know, you want to start your own movie studio, video game studio, cartoon studio, you know, music studio, whatever. Just take the first step. You know, when you take the first step, you will take the second and then the third and the fourth. You know, those are the steps of faith. You know, you just find out that you can take another step. Don't bother with the how. Don't bother with, I have to wait till I have this much money or that much money. No, just get ahead. And if you're a pastor, you know, or a minister, you know, you have your ministry, your drama department, that is your movie studio. Start it. You already have the cameras and all of that, the mechanisms for recording your sermons. Get your drama department, you know, get a writer, start making skits, you know, short films, you know, short plays, short dramas, you know, create your online channels, you know, put it out there. Exciting stuff that pushes forth the message of the gospel, and it's also entertaining that people will love and people will watch, and then blow that up, you know, it becomes movies and all of that. Your choir, on the other hand, that is your record label. You know, start it. It's a shame that a lot of the Christian musicians out there, even though it would seem they are under Christian record labels, their Christian record labels are signed to secular record labels. Like, for example, Hillsong is under a lot of Hillsong music that you see is under Sony Entertainment. You know, a lot of Kev Franklin, a lot of Fred Hammond, a lot of the gospel music that you see, it has the name of the Christian record label that is perhaps owned by the people, but when you look into it, you will see that it is actually above it. It is either owned by, you know, a Sony or by Columbia Records or one of these secular record labels that will also use the money and the profits to sponsor the making and the pushing of content by the Nicki Minaj's and the Cardi B and all the shake your butt and shake your bum and all the ungodly messages. That is foolishness. We have to make sure that we own the entire chain of production. It's very important. It's coming highly later. Look at Russia and how they have just been censored from everything, and all the companies and how everything has been stripped for them. That is Christians tomorrow. Especially those of the Christians who will be left behind, or those who, you know, who refuse to take the mark of the beast. The same way that, you know, you see this kind of censorship and this does not want to do business, this, you know, people are being cancelled. That is how Christians will be cancelled. And we will not be able to buy and sell. You know, we already have the situations of countries trying to create central banks. The banking industry will change. No more banks as we know them today. It is now every country has a central bank, and everybody is registered, you know, and they have their accounts with the central bank of the country. And then the country networks with the central banks of other countries. In the name of, after all, we have Facebook and Twitter, and, you know, we talk to people all over the world. So, you know, every country, one bank, and all these bank networks together. And when you are outside of that financial system because of whatever, perhaps your political belief, or perhaps you are Christian, you cannot buy or sell without the mark of the beast or without their approval. So it is a slavery system that is being basically brought upon us. And, you know, the devil is going to move ahead of times if Christians are not in those places. What should happen is that Christians should be in these positions. And we are going to keep the devil back, and we are going to make things wrong where rain will fall on both the good and the evil. In other words, even gay people and all kinds of people will be able to use bank accounts. But when the Christians disappear after the rapture, and, you know, the Christians are gone, we are now going to have a situation where all those positions of power are now vacant, and it's now evil men that can just flood into them, and they will just go united with their one goal and their one vision, and it will be chaos for anybody that does not agree to the slavery that they will bring about, because that is basically what the mark of the beast system, you know, the Antichrist system is basically about. You know, what slavery of the worst kind, you know, mental slavery, you know, slavery of the, not just the body but also of the mind, you know, and that is going to be a hindrance in them receiving Christ. That is also probably one of the key reasons why probably God is not going to be able to reach people who have received the mark of the beast. That is why God says, do not take the mark of the beast, because by doing that, you know, you are now putting microchips and whatever, you are giving your brain and your mind now to the devil. So how can you be rich now? It's now a different problem. So in any case, if you are watching this and I haven't given your life to Christ, make sure you go to Alfred or VIP, click the salvation prayer link in the main menu. When you do at the page, you come out as a prayer of salvation. Say that prayer telling God you want to become a Christian and give your life to Christ. Thank you, and God bless you.